Hola, me llamo Alejandro, and I grew up in a city with 3 official languages, English, Spanish, and French Creole.
Ni hao. My name is Sandy, and I grew up in Singapore, a country with 4 official languages: English, Mandarin, Malay, and Tamil.
And we are both avid polyglots, which means we both speak more than 2 languages. So we know it takes time to learn a new language.
And we believe that no one should have to wait to be able to exert your rights.
So, let me ask, how many of you have ever applied for a driver's license? Gotten a marriage certificate? Applied for school? Sounds boring, easy, and maybe, if anything, a bit tedious. But for 25 million Americans living in the US with limited English proficiency, or LEP for short, getting access to these basic services is nearly impossible. Government staff are often untrained in helping this population, underfunded to provide translations, and in some cases unaware that they even offer these services. So, let's meet Elsa. Elsa is one of those 25 million LEPs. When she first moved to the US from Colombia, she had to do something we all took for granted. She had to apply for a state ID. We underestimate the difficulty and importance of receiving these vital services when we place a language barrier in the way. For her, she said, it was embarrassing to go out and even do basic things. Getting her ID was a complete mess, and she remembers the staff pointing and raising their voice in frustration. She said, I felt helpless and I didn't want to go back. And she's not alone. Even in cities and states with the most advanced language access plans, there are still gaps in varying levels of implementation across departments. And as you can see here on this graph, only a mere 25% of those LEPs got any sort of their needs met when they went to the DMV. And so how does something as simple as a state ID potentially affect their life? Well, there's several ramifications. For example, limiting their ability to potentially find work or open a bank account, sign leases, or even be barred from entering their children's school. Or yet worse, being stopped by the police if you don't have a valid ID to verify your identity. In this political climate, the results could be disastrous. And these are all the ramifications of something just going wrong at the DMV. And that's to say that the DMV is a small part of a larger governmental system.
So what happens when an LEP goes to a government office? They typically encounter staff who are not trained to interact with LEPs, who may not be aware of the language services that their department offers, much less promote them. And this prevents LEPs from exerting their rights, leading to poor experiences at the office. The poor experiences discourages LEPs from showing up at government. This leads government to perceive a lack of need and creates a vicious cycle where needs are not met or supported. In states where language access is law, it is treated like a box that needs to be checked. The most common solution is the use of machine translations to improve accessibility. However, the government is not using it as intended by providers. They often put up boilerplate disclaimers stating that they are unable to guarantee accuracy or be held accountable for poor or inaccurate translations, putting all the risks on vulnerable LEPs. By not providing good language access, the government excludes LEPs from meaningfully participating in civic society and receiving vital services.
So we wondered, how might we ensure that information about government services is easily accessible regardless of language? Over the course of our thesis, we spoke to 22 different stakeholders, and a couple themes began to emerge. First was a concern of agency and independence, as LEPs felt that they couldn't do anything without the aid of an English speaker. Second was a sense of trust, as LEPs were worried about being scammed and wanted to ensure that the information they were receiving was accurate. And finally, and maybe most importantly, was a sense of accountability, as LEPs currently felt that even though there may be laws in place to protect them, that no one cares or actually follows through with them.
So keeping all of this in mind, when we started thinking of a solution, we wanted to make sure that all of those concerns were addressed. And so we developed our initial prototypes. Our first prototype helps LEPs fill out their forms better, but we soon learned that they were more interested in speaking to people. Our second prototype addresses that, and we created Yelp for LEPs, amplifying their current support systems. And it turned out to be very successful. And so we arrived at our first feature, the Language Service Directory. With this Language Service Directory, an LEP will be able to check ahead of time the language services that an office offers and plan ahead. But we soon realized that wasn't enough, and so we thought of our second feature. So the next prototype, we put in the directory with community information because we thought by showing community ties, they would be more willing to use Hey Polly. However, they weren't interested. And so we should decide to show more government information, but it proved to be very overwhelming. And finally, that led to our final prototype, a simple Q&A where they're able to easily ask questions and get answers.
So, introducing our final Hey Polly, your rights and resources in your language. What's great about Hey Polly was that it was created using simple tools on Google, such as Google Sites and Google Docs, which means it's easy to maintain. It has a low tech barrier to entry for new community users, and it's scalable. And when I mean scalable, it's scalable across a different plethora of communities, being able to reflect the specific community demographic and needs of said city. So how would someone, a user such as Elsa, go ahead and use this service? Well, let's say Elsa one day tiene una pregunta, or she has a question. She would go ahead and access Hey Polly and access it in her native language of Spanish. And if she had a question, she could go ahead and search our archives to see if that question has already been previously answered. And if not, she can go ahead and submit it directly to our site and make sure that she will get that question answered by a verified community member or government staff. And if she plans on going to the department in person, she can go ahead and access the Language Service Directory to see what sort of language access plans are in place so she can plan accordingly. But what if her question isn't answered and we can't answer it?
So we decided to bring those questions back to government. To do that, we built out a monthly reporting system that will collect all unanswered questions, community concerns, and discrepancies in language access. And we plan on using this information to hold government accountable. We brought this back to Jersey City, the Office of Walking Communities, and we heard positive feedback. But the office was realistic about implementation timelines and just suggested that we sought out community groups. We were a bit discouraged, but just by showing up and advocating for language access, we were already able to shift mindsets. Our government staff says now, whenever he goes into a meeting, he always thinks about language access. So we thought, with the right tools and resources, anyone can advocate for language access. And so, Hey Polly became a two-part system, one for LEPs and another for community members that want to bring Hey Polly into their community. To allow for easy dissemination, we created a website, polyportal.com/toolkit. And on the website, we share presentation materials, templates, that will allow any community member to learn more about language access, use our slides and resources to train other community members, set up their own community poly and reporting system, and using our letter templates, take action within government by writing letters to the elected officials.
So to scale for scalability, we brought our prototype back to New York City and tested in the New York Public Library English conversation classes, where we had a plethora of LEP users to test with and librarians who thought that this would be really useful in the library system, as they're already one of the most trusted community members that LEPs turn to when they first arrive in this country. And from the LEPs themselves, they say it's a great resource of information, especially to those just arriving. And overwhelmingly, what we heard was everyone was surprised this was something that wasn't made available yet. So what Hey Polly does is increase a sense of agency so they can use it independently, increases a sense of trust so they can ask anonymously and make sure they're getting verified information. And maybe most importantly, it's run by the community for the community, so it makes sure that government is held accountable.
So when we first started our thesis, we saw a vicious cycle where needs are not met or supported. And we stepped in, and with Hey Polly, we'll make sure that language services are promoted and that LEPs are aware of their rights to access. With our reporting system, we'll make sure that government is aware of the needs within their communities. And with our toolkit, we provide government the tools to train their staff members to make sure that those needs are met.
So you might be wondering at this point, why Hey Polly?
We all deserve a government that is held accountable and provides accurate information.
When we first started our thesis, this is what language access looked like: a linear and one-sided form of communication that fragmented all the stakeholders. So previously, if Elsa was turned away at the DMV, she might have to wait months to try again, and her success would hinge on the ability to find a friend or family member who spoke English to go along with her and interpret. But now, Poly is a more fully realized communication system that fosters relationships between those previously disconnected stakeholders, which means that Elsa can now independently seek out government services and assert her rights. Thank you. Oh,
We forgot.
one last thing, and this is brand new as of last week.
So we're currently working with the Jersey City government to bring this into Jersey City. And we are also trying to work out something with the New York Public Library.
Thank you.
Thank you.